You're listening to Chuck Cash on the radio.
Stop it.
Chuck Cash is on the radio. What? Chuck Cash on the radio? Yes, Chuck Cash is on the radio. He's on the radio now. How do? And welcome to the Chuck Cash Radio Show. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll be taking a look back at the week's top stories and events, beginning Monday, the 17th of December. Bradley Wiggins wins Sports Personality of the Year, as it's deemed he was the sportsman who displayed anything anywhere near resembling a personality. Andy Murray further distances himself from the label of runner-up by coming third. It transpires that the Ritz Hotel Group has paid no corporation tax in the UK for the last 17 years. Well, that's the last time I buy their cheesy biscuits. The private funeral took place in India of Jacintha Savana, the royal nurse from the Edward VII Hospital who tragically took her own life. We know it was a private family service because all the major news networks from around the world were there to cover it. The Queen attended a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, the first monarch to do so since Tory Prime Minister Lord North invited Edward III in 1781. The Prime Minister presented the Queen with a gift in acknowledgement of her Diamond Jubilee celebrations. 60 placemats, one for each year of her reign, despite those that called for a more practical gift, like caller ID. This is the first time a monarch has sat in on a cabinet meeting since the early days of the Industrial Revolution, since Washington defeated Cornwallis in Yorktown, ending the American Revolutionary War prior to John Hanson being elected the first US president in Congress, thus beginning that special Anglo-American relationship. And then Sir William Herschel discovers Uranus. On the radio now.
Neon Roberts' mother has been overruled by medical experts, and now he's to continue his chemotherapy treatment against his mother's wishes. Unfortunately, experts were limited in their jurisdiction and were unauthorized to change the poor boy's name from Neon. A police officer has been arrested who posed as a member of the public to witness the Plebgate scandal, despite not being there. Mr. Cameron calls for a full inquiry, but the Metropolitan Police stand by the original statements, despite CCTV evidence seemingly unsupporting. Raising the question, who do we believe? The police, the government, or the press? That's right, it was a trick question. UBS are fined £1 billion for colluding to fix the LIBOR rate, the gold standard bank lending rate, by dozens of its traders over 5 years. The open and willful collusion was staggering and akin to fiscal anarchy. Not as much fun as it sounds. This is the second bank after Barclays of around 20 expected to be prosecuted for the same offence. Hooray, we're rich! If the punishment for fixing LIBOR continues in a similar rate, it's estimated that the HMRC may recoup enough money to pay the fines that will surely be imposed on our publicly owned banks. Boo, we're poor again.
I said, here's Chuck Cash is on your radio now.
In Florida, Christopher Cheney is jailed for 10 years and fined $70,000 for hacking into the email accounts of Scarlett Johansson and Christina Aguilera. He accessed naked pictures of the starlets and posted them on the internet. When Cheney was sentenced, he said, "It was totally worth it, dude. The images I accessed will stay with me forever," which should stand him in good stead for those long, lonely nights ahead of him. 4,000 British force soldiers are to be withdrawn from Afghanistan by the end of next year. Numbering 9,500 at their peak, boots on ground will be drawn down to 5,500. The timing of the withdrawal is to coincide with the transition to an Afghan-led security force, and so that troops can be back in the UK in time to be made redundant due to the latest military cutbacks. 70-year-old Christmas cards and letters have come to light that were meant for German soldiers' sweethearts during occupation of Jersey in the Second World War. The mail was originally stolen by locals as a show of resistance, but now the families of the intended recipients are being tracked down and the letters will finally make their intended destinations. Sadly, many of the letters have been returned to Jersey as many of the Germans refuse to pay the postage charge now due. Satire and banter survive, says the Director of Public Prosecutions, as he announces a less litigious law for dealing with online internet abuse, and tells us what's PC on your PC when you mind your P's and Q's. As long as it's justified and removed and apologised for, it will now be okay to carry on calling the Pope names. Look out, Twitter. On the radio now. Funding settlements that will dictate local authority budgets over the coming years are announced by Eric Pickles. Some of the poorest authorities, Labour ones, will be hit the hardest. Pickles, more than most in the Cabinet, is a perfect example of the outcome of taking from the poor to feed the rich. Eric Pickles is kind of like an opposite to a Robin Hood. He's a robbing bastard. There's no evidence of a cover-up, but BBC are heavily criticised for shelving the Jimmy Savile Newsnight story, according to the Pollard Review, released Wednesday. The BBC investigation into why Newsnight dropped the Jimmy Savile story, and its Director of News, Stephen Mitchell, will now retire. Marion Jones, producer, and reporter Liz McKean insist that the BBC ran tributes to Savile last Christmas despite knowledge of him being a paedophile and committing some of those offences on BBC property. Chaos, poor management and a severe lack of leadership are all evident and culminates in the Director General walking away with £450,000. Emails show that George Entwistle was aware of the darker side of Jimmy Savile way back in May 2011. The email from a senior executive said he was queasy at the 4 Savile tributes planned on BBC TV and radio in December and January. Tim Davie, Acting Director General, said in addition to the Deputy Editor, Stephen Mitchell, standing down, there would be a new editorial team at Newsnight. Helen Bowden would resume her role as Director of News, despite criticism in the report, and Peter Rippon, the man responsible for blogging misleading information and not looking at evidence before quashing the Savile story, moves position. None of them will be dismissed. Lessons have been learned, and a period of contrition and a cultural change at the BBC are sensitively announced by an angry and defensive, unrepentant-sounding Chris Patten. MPs remain critical of the BBC, describing the reshuffling and the Director General payoff as a cavalier use of public money. And it's an opinion that resonates, because when it comes to a cavalier use of public money, nobody knows better than an MP. Operation Yewtree, open brackets BBC Dirty Dozen Bingo, close brackets, a man in his 70s has been arrested. However, he also has a super injunction. These super injunctions are kind of taking the fun out of arresting paedophiles. Touching kids is paedophilia. It's wrong in every way. You must wait until they're old enough, even if you know they're gay. Paedophiles in seats of power are fundamentally weak, quite often fat and ugly. Some stand out as being a freak. Not that being handsome would condone what they have done, it just might be less embarrassing when you try to tell someone. I'm not saying that a handsome one would make a less disgusting shit, it's just later in life their victims might feel more like discussing it. So if you think you might be a paedophile, the very least that you can do to help reduce the misery that your victims will go through is take care of yourself, keep well, improve your fitness. So then your haunted victims can at least acknowledge your existence, and who knows, you might enjoy it and begin a brand new hobby, one that's not immoral, illegal, disgusting or abhorrent, and then when justice is served, you're caught and locked in prison. You may actually stand a chance as inmates try to cave your head in. Culture Secretary Maureen Miller is quizzed over £90,000 worth of expenses claimed for her parents' home. She says they're dependents and insists she's done nothing wrong. David Cameron's press spokesman, Craig Oliver, allegedly puts pressure on the editor of the Daily Telegraph, who ran the story in his paper, reminding him that Ms Miller will be integral in implementing the Leveson recommendations. In other words, try it again and the Bullenden boys will come round and smash up your favourite restaurant. I said, yes, Chuck Cash is on the radio now. As you can probably tell, it takes a lot of words to make a Chuck Cash radio show. On average, around 4,000 of them to be precise. I'm using some of them right now. Sometimes finding the right words and putting them in the best order possible can be difficult. That's why it helps when you put those words to music. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Go in this bit, but it don't gotta rhyme, just gotta fit now. Need a few lines to pad up the time in time for a bridge. This bit gets repeated, 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 and this bit leads to the part. Words to go with this bit, but it don't gotta rhyme, just gotta fit. And I need some lines to paddle the tiny time for the bridge. Oh, this bit gets repeated, 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 repeated. Oh, this bit to the pond. Oh, I need a few words to go with this bit, but it don't gotta rhyme, just gotta fit. And I need some lines to pad up the time and time for a breeze. Oh, this bit and this bit gets repeated, 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 repeated on this bit, leads to the pond. La 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 la. This bit, it gets repeated, 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 repeated. All this bit leads to the pond, where I still need a few words to go in this bit, but it don't gotta rhyme, just gotta fit. And I need some lines to pad up the time and time for a breeze. Oh, this bit, it gets repeated, 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 repeated. All this bit, it leads to the pond.
You're listening to Chuck Cash on the radio.
Stop it.
Chuck Cash is on the radio. What? Chuck Cash on the radio? Yes, Chuck Cash is on the radio. He's on the radio now. It's at this point of the show we say goodbye to followers of the Mayan calendar. Actually, this show has been pre-recorded on Thursday, to be precise. You know, just in case the Mayans were right. And this really is the last day on the planet. But in the event that nothing actually happened, or that some of you survived and are listening at the intended time of broadcast, I figured I should at least have some kind of yearly review, just in case 2012 was indeed the last year of planet Earth. Well, January began a leap year, the Chinese Year of the Dragon. And in that year we would lose Monkey Davy Jones, Beastie Boy Adam Young, Whitney Houston, Robin Gibb, Donna Summer, Neil Armstrong and Andy Williams, Phyllis Diller, Gore Vidal, Larry Hagman and Ravi Shankar, Dave Brubeck and Patrick Moore. Sadly, two-time drink-driving, draft-dodging, document-fiddling, friend-shooting warmonger Dick Cheney turned 71 on January 30th. In brighter news, Britain reaches the 1 trillion national debt mark for the first time. Hooray! And in February, the Queen officially marks her Diamond Jubilee. And so it begins. Fabio Capello resigns as manager of England over the John Terry captaincy decision by a fearful FA as he's charged with racially abusing Anton Ferdinand in a Premiership game. Capello leaves with a record of 1-0, drawn 24 million in salary and lost the respect of a footballing nation. Along with his ABC How to Speak English phrasebook, so it would seem. On the radio now. Carlos Tevez returns from Argentina after a dispute with his Man City manager Roberto Mancini, saying he'd been treated like a dog. Mancini would eventually agree to include Tevez back in the team after he's fully examined, has a shot for rabies and spends at least 6 months in quarantine. It was in February that the Water Board announced fears of a drought, calling for hosepipe bans in Wales and the south of England, closely followed by floods and one of the wettest years on record in Wales and the south of England, and the north of England, and Ireland, and Scotland. In fact, it's still raining right now. Occupy protesters were removed from outside of St Paul's Cathedral, but it wasn't reported on by the News of the World as the newspaper is forced to close as fallout from the phone hacking scandal. And in March, Chelsea sack another manager as Andre Villas-Boas is replaced by Roberto Martinez on a temporary basis. Aren't they all on a temporary basis? Under Abramovich, Chelsea have now had more managers than a McDonald's takeaway in downtown Baghdad. In April, Roy Hodgson is named as the new England manager, as Harry Redknapp didn't want the job. Hodgson names John Terry as his captain in a three-pronged attack formation. Three-pronged as in he's making a mockery of the FA, Anton Ferdinand and the reason for Fabio Capello's resignation in one foul swoop. Trenton Oldfield disrupts the Oxford-Cambridge boat race in a one-man protest against elitism. One-man protest? Sounds a bit elitist. On the radio now. At the Leveson inquiry, James Murdoch apologises to the News of the World staff for the loss of their jobs over the hacking scandal, and in the process makes Anders Breivik's apology to some of his victims sound almost sincere. Oh, Mr. Murdoch, have you heard of all the hacking at your paper? And the verdict, Mr. Murdoch, you're elbow deep in sleaze. If it were not Mr. Murdoch for your allies in high places, then you and Daddy Murdoch would be under lock and key. James and Rupert, shame on you, your grubby little paper has been hacking at the fabric of a culture once was great, and by default the sad result is a drop in moral standards, and most gloomy of all, the sun's out every friggin' day. go away. And in May in football, Chelsea buy the FA Cup and Man City buy the Premier League title. In June, the Diamond Jubilee celebration weekend includes the Epsom Derby, a big Jubilee lunch, royal procession up the Thames culminating in a Buckingham Palace concert and flypast by the Red Arrows. The concert featured top artists including Cliff Richard, who sang one song from each decade that the Queen had reigned, reminding us all of how consistently annoying, unfashionable and weird he's been throughout those years. Bradley Wiggins wins the Tour de France in July and single-handedly annoys the entire nation of France, which is why he would go on to win Sports Personality of the Year. G4S are 5,000 staff short and the army are called in just in case there's riots during the opening Olympic ceremony. There were not. In August, £13 billion is deemed value for money for buying the most winningest Olympics since 1908. In September, Murray wins the US Open and George Osborne is booed at a medal ceremony at the Paralympics, which was rather convenient as it drowned out all the foul-mouth abuse and swearing on the TV microphones. In Leeds, the auction took place of Jimmy Savile's personal possessions, which, on reflection, was either the most convenient auction lot timing on record or the willful and opportunistic sale of criminal evidence. Among items sold were the famous Jim'll Fix-It chair and a two-piece silver lame tracksuit, although I'd imagine both those purchases will lose some of their glamour when they're delivered wrapped in police forensic DNA testing tape. I wonder who paid the twice estimated £130,000 for Savile's Rolls-Royce Corniche, which was ironically nicknamed the Beast. Ironic as it's the very same nickname most of us now use for Jimmy Savile. In October, the ITV would expose Savile and spawn many investigations, including Operation Yewtree. The investigation so far, where 600 cases of rape, paedophilia and sexual assault have been discovered, 450 of them by Savile himself. Austrian skydiver Felix Baumgarn falls to earth from 24 miles above the New Mexico desert, becoming the first person to break the sound barrier without motorised assistance. Despite winning the Champions League in the summer, Chelsea sack another manager. Roberto Martinez is replaced with Rafa Benitez. In November, the Leveson Inquiry report is delivered to stunned ambivalence, and in December, the Hillsborough inquest verdicts are in, which brings to a close a year that, yes, will be remembered for its many British sporting achievements, for Bradley Wiggins winning the Tour de France, Andy Murray finally winning a Grand Slam title, for a summer of golden inspirational Paralympians and the Diamond Jubilympics. But it would also be remembered as a year of floods, institutional corruption, banking criminality on a massive scale, child sex abuse, government cover-ups, a meltdown at the BBC and the shaming of the British press. Looking back on this leap year, you could consider it might have been a year better to have been leapt over. It may be the International Year of the Dragon in China, but in Britain it feels more like the International Year of the Lawyer. Even the world's most elite boat race was sabotaged. Take away the gold medals, and you could say that if Britain wanted to ruin the Queen's Diamond Jubilee year, well, you couldn't have done a much better job. Let's just hope none of the musicians at her Jubilee concert end up on Jimmy Savile's naughty list.
You're listening to Chuck Cash on the radio.
Stop it.
Chuck Cash is on the radio. What? Chuck Cash on the radio? Yes, Chuck Cash is on the radio. He's on the radio now.
And now your local news. Despite having traded under the name since the 1930s, the Ritz Hotel in Desborough have until the end of the year to change their name or risk prosecution by the famous London Ritz. Owner, Mr. Mould, said, "When we first got the email from the Ritz, we thought it were a joke. Our hotel ain't going to affect them up here in rural Desborough. After all, we're quite easy to distinguish. I mean, we're up here in Northamptonshire, and we're the ones that pay our taxes." 3 wards at the Lister Hospital in Stevenage will remain closed for the rest of the week due to an outbreak of the winter vomiting bug, norovirus.
Yeah, the hospital's asking anyone who's had diarrhoea or been vomiting to stay away to prevent the spread of infection. I'd like to add my voice to that health warning and advise if you've been vomiting or had diarrhoea, then stay the hell away from me and all. It's Christmas. I'll just end with a message to all listeners who live near flooded rivers. Raise up your perishables, protect your valuables, plug any cracks and keep a bucket close at hand. And advice to any party revellers going out over the Christmas period, I'd offer the same advice. That just leaves me enough time to say to you all what my father used to say to us every Christmas morning. Don't expect too much, it's been a rough year. That's been your local news. What's that? What's that? Is it a herd of jesters? A troop of Morris dancers? A Paralympic football team? No, it's a cat toy I'm using to conjure up the illusion of Christmas, which actually isn't that hard to do, as Christmas is indeed an illusion, especially if your festive expectations are based on Christmas presents, or worse, Christmas past, or the images created by the advertising of Boots, M&S, or heaven forbid, Iceland. But whatever your choice of purchase, and wherever you may be in the world, just remember, as long as you keep the receipt, you should be able to get an exchange or a full refund within 14 days of purchase. To those of you that survived the end of the world, well done. Now good luck avoiding the flooded roads and surviving the family over the festive period. Thanks for listening. Take care. No nights.
I said a yes, Chuck Cash is on your radio.